So we were talking about how to achieve long-lasting happiness. So with this regard, I'm doing a reading, first of all, which I'm sure you have read this story. There was a rich merchant who had 4 wives. You heard that story? There was a rich merchant who had 4 wives. He loved the 4th wife the most and adorned her with rich robes and treated her to delicacies. He took great care of her and gave her nothing but the best. He also loved the 3rd wife very much. He is very proud of her and always wanted to show off her to his friends. However, the merchant is always in great fear that she might run away with some other man. He too loved this 2nd wife. She is a very considerate person, always patient, and in fact is the merchant's confidante. Whenever the merchant faced some problems, he always turned to his 2nd wife and she would always help him out and tide him through difficult times. Now the merchant's 1st wife is a very loyal partner and has made great contributions in maintaining his wealth and business as well as taking care of the household. Right? However, the merchant did not love the 1st wife, and although she loved him deeply, he hardly took notice of her. Okay? One day the merchant fell ill. Before long he knew that he was going to die soon. He thought of his luxurious life and told himself, "Now I have 4 wives with me, but when I die, I will be alone. How lonely I will be." Thus he asked the 4th wife, "I loved you most, endowed you with the finest clothing and showered great care over you. Now that I am dying, will you follow me and keep me company?" And then she answered, "No way," replied the 4th wife, and she walked away without another word. The answer cut like a sharp knife right into the merchant's heart. The said merchant then asked the 3rd wife, "I have loved you so much for all my life. Now that I am dying, will you follow me and keep me company?" "No," replied the 3rd wife. "Life is so good over here. I am going to remarry when you die." The merchant's heart sank and turned cold. He then asked the 2nd wife, "I always turn to you for help and you have always helped me out. Now I need your help again. When I die, will you follow me and keep me company?" "I am sorry, I can't help you out this time," replied the 2nd wife. "At the very most, I can only send you to your grave." The answer came like a bolt of thunder, and the merchant was devastated. Then a voice called out, "I will live with you. I will follow you no matter where you go." The merchant looked up, and there was his 1st wife. She was so skinny, almost like she suffered from malnutrition. Greatly grieved, the merchant said, "I should have taken much better care of you while I could have." Okay, this is the story. Now what this symbolizes. Every man and woman, not just man, every man and woman has 4 wives or husbands. What do these wives signify? The 4th wife signifies your body. The 4th wife is our body. We love our body day and night, right? We take a lot of care about our body. In the morning, we wash our face, put on clothing and shoes. We give food to our body. We take care of our body like the 4th wife in this story. But unfortunately, at the end of your life, the body, the 1st wife, cannot follow us to the next world. Right? When we die, we leave the body behind. As it is stated in a commentary, when the last breath leaves our body, the healthy color of the face is transformed and we lose the appearance of radiant life. Our loved ones may gather around and lament, but to no avail. When such an event occurs, the body is sent into an open field and cremated, leaving only the white ashes. This is the destination of our body. So although we take so much care of our body, but it will not go with us. Okay. The third wife represents our possessions, status, and wealth. Now, in the case of possession, status, and wealth, also when we die, they will go to others. You can't take them with you. The second wife represents our family and friends. No matter how close they had been there for us, when we are alive, the further they can stay by us, is up to the grave, is the third wife commented. In the Tibetan, literature also there is a story of a butcher who used to kill a lot of animals. And one day his teacher told him, this is very sinful, to take so many lives, so don't stop killing. And because the result, the negative consequences, only you have to suffer. Then he said, no, why should I suffer alone? Because I'm doing this not just for me, but for my wife, my kids, and others, right? Then the teacher said, okay, if you don't believe me, you ask your mother, your children, and so forth, whether they can share the negative consequences of your killing. So he goes to his wife and kids and asks this question. They all said, if there is a possibility to share, of course we will share, but it's simply not possible to share the negative consequences of one's wrongdoings. One has to suffer. So this is kind of similar story. Okay? The first wife is, in fact, here it says our soul, but in Buddhism we don't believe in a permanent soul, so it is basically our mind. Often neglected in our pursuit of material wealth and sensual pleasure. So that is what the text was explaining yesterday, and that is what I spoke yesterday. We spend so much time paying attention to the needs of the body, okay? Then name, fame, pleasure, sensual pleasure, wealth, and so forth, and hardly take care of our mind. And that's why I tell people that the multifarious problems that we are suffering today in the world is a sign of starvation of the mind. I call it starvation of the mind. Starvation of the mind. Because we have been feeding our body, all kinds of food we are giving to the body. And on top of that, you go to the gym, you do jogging and exercises, stretching and pulling, and so many things you do. But to be honest, with the mind, what is it that we have given to the mind? So the most important thing in our life is our mind. And that most important thing in our life, that is mind, you need this text. Okay. So the most important thing, we are talking about getting happiness and peace and so forth, right? So in this pursuit to have long-lasting happiness and peace, the most important thing is taking care of the mind. Taking care of the mind. Because it is the mind which makes our destiny or mars our destiny. Because it is the mind which controls our life, depending upon what kind of mind it is. Whether it will guide to the right direction or the wrong direction, it is absolutely dependent on the mind. That's why we are talking so much about practice of mindfulness, meditation, awareness and so forth. We are talking about fine-tuning the mind, preparing the mind. And I have been sharing this to many people, saying that out of the majority kind of sufferings that we are encountering, majority of the sufferings that we are experiencing is because of how you see things. Meaning, it is not so much what is happening outside, it is really how you see things, how you perceive things. Right? When your mind is not, when your mind doesn't have a proper perspective, realistic attitude, realistic outlook, you tend to highlight the problems, the difficulties, the shortcomings. You keep on complaining throughout your life. So controlling mind is really controlling almost everything. Now this is not something that is taught only in Buddhism, but many thinkers, scientists and philosophers, they are now coming to the conclusion that much of your suffering is your mental creation, how you perceive things. You see, when your mind is suspicious, when your mind is suspicious, when your mind is depressed, when your mind is unhappy, nothing can make you happy. You will not be able to taste food, you will not be able to sleep peacefully, right? So the magic and mystery, the key of magic and mystery, the key in solving all these problems is in your hand. It's not in the hand of Buddha, not in the hand of God or anybody. It's really, really in your hand. So it's important to highlight the good things you have, first of all, to be happy. Don't just keep on complaining, I don't have this, I don't have that, I need this, I need this. Even if you become millionaire, you're hungry, you become billionaire, you're hungry. You're not satisfied just earthly life, you move to the moon, you same problem. The grass is greener on the other side story, as you are very, very familiar. Right? So when we talk about fine-tuning the mind and developing proper mental outlook, we are not just saying that all your problems can be solved like that. But what we are saying is, majority of your problems can be solved. I'm not saying that you develop a wonderful mental attitude and food will come automatically, house will come automatically. I'm not stupid, I'm not saying those things. For this you have to work. But just by accumulating these material things is not guarantee that you will be really, really happier or more peaceful. And more importantly, we are not even, moving towards happiness, peace. As I mentioned yesterday, for those of you who were here yesterday, as I mentioned yesterday, that honestly speaking, we are not really moving much towards peace and happiness. We are moving towards sensual objects. The world is not running so much peace and happiness, although very often we talk about peace and happiness, but we are really not moving towards it. We are moving towards enjoying the sensual objects, the sensual pleasure, something to see, something to taste, something to touch, something to hear, and all the merchandise products that is floating in the market is made to dupe our senses because they know our weakness. And if you play with our weakness, they will be able to sell their commodity. That's exactly what is happening. Okay? So therefore, when you talk about getting that long-lasting peace and happiness, you need to be very honest with yourself. What is it that you really want? You see? So on an occasion like this, when we are all sitting together and at least paying some attention and thinking, then when we ask this question, do you want happiness? Everybody says, yes, I want happiness. Not only that, everybody will say, I want long-lasting, reliable happiness. But that's not how we live in our daily life. We forget these things. We run after sensual pleasures. The world is running after sensual pleasures. So by running after sensual pleasures, are we really happier? Are we really more peaceful? No. Instead, because of this unchecked greed, we are destroying not only our life, we are destroying the source of our life, the whole environment. Look at the pollution that you see now today in different parts of the world, different countries. Right? So therefore, we need to be honest with oneself, go more within oneself, and find that inner source of peace and happiness. When we talk about inner source of peace and happiness, the internal mind, it is a resource which will never deplete. Inexhaustible resource. You can go with it, you can develop love, you can develop compassion, you can develop patience, you can develop tolerance. I don't know what else is there. So many amazing qualities there which you can develop. And for developing these inner qualities, you don't need a license from the government. You don't need to spend a lot of money, even for construction of a house you need money, you need permission, so many things. Very difficult, not easy. But when it comes to building this internal spiritual qualities like happiness, loving kindness, compassion, so forth, it is yours. Only thing we need to do is we need to see the relevance and importance of these inner resources, and we need to make effort, we need to have some commitment, not just for oneself, for every other people. So gradually we need to come to a conclusion that what will make the world happy, what will make the sentient beings live in harmony is these inner resources, internal mind, the right mental attitude. In layman's language it is called soft power, the power of culture. Not the hard power, not the gun, not army, not military. The time really has come that people should start. I'm talking big, only to few people here, may or may not make sense, but these days, what I'm saying here is listened by many people. It is webcasted, so many people listen and they're sending interesting responses also. Really we need to think. And yesterday, as I said, the Buddhist teachers say, you don't have to kill people, they will die. Look at this. In the same way, we can say you don't have to create suffering about other people, they are already suffering. What the hell we are doing? Using immense resources, manpower, intelligence, to build all these destructive weapons, to kill these very weak, fragile human beings. What are we doing? Even after engaging in such destructive activities, we call ourselves intelligent human beings. Where is the intelligence? Right? So there is a lot to think about. And we need to talk. That's why His Holiness is working so hard to teach on this secular ethics, universal ethics. And His Holiness has repeatedly said, wherever you go in different countries, the buildings are becoming taller. Morality is becoming lower. Absolutely true. So basic spiritual qualities like loving kindness, compassion, without this you cannot survive. You cannot survive. Because if you look at the nature of our own body, it is very good it's very receptive for love, for compassion. And His Holiness and many great thinkers, they say, even if you look at the structure of your body, this long hand with the nice fingers is good for hugging, not for hitting. If it is for eating, you don't need the finger. We should just get a feast. Then look at the teeth, good for smiling, not for killing. The lions and other carnivorous animals, they are equipped with, very strong teeth and very strong paws and nails, which can really kill animals. But if we try to do that, instead of being able to kill animals, all our teeth will fail. All our nails will be broken, things like that. So if you look at the bodily structure, it's for peace, it's for love, it's for compassion. Then why the hell we are doing all these destructive activities? Physically you are not prepared to do these destructive things, but your emotions ran wild. You did not train your mind in the right direction. The greatest power that human beings have is this human intelligence. That's why human beings have this big head with a big brain. Human beings are said to be possessing the biggest brain. Not in the terms of just the brain, but in terms of your physical structure. There are other animals which are physically much, much bigger, so they will have bigger brain. But comparing to the size of the body, human beings said to possess the biggest brain. And then the mind that we talk about in Buddhism, which is dependent upon their brain, when it is not trained in the proper way means not just following a particular religion. Training proper way means depending upon your psychophysical needs. Do those things which really brings harmony, happiness and peace to your body, to your mind. So all these violent activities are not good for your physical health as well as mental health. This is a common sense thing. That's why His Holiness is, as I said, emphasizing on teaching secular ethics. So secular ethics means not following rules, regulations. Secular ethics means following a way of life which has not come from top down, but a way of life which comes from bottom up. Bottom up, top down means if you follow a way of life saying that this is coming from Buddha, Buddha said this, therefore we must do. God says this, therefore we must do. That's good, but that is not applicable for everybody. There are many people who don't follow Buddha's teaching. There are many people who don't follow God. They are atheists, non-believers, right? And not universal. But if you come up with a process of life, an ethical way of life, which is from bottom up. Bottom up means based on our common sense, common experience, evidence-based. That it's better that I smile at you and you smile at me, rather than I threaten you, you threaten me. It's common sense. We don't have to cite any quotation from the Buddha's teaching or from the Bible or things like that, you see. So that kind of universal ethics is extremely, extremely important. So therefore, instead of following blind faith, it is important to use your common sense, right? Right? If you really want that long-lasting happiness, therefore it has to come from within oneself, within one's own mind. Right? So therefore, as I mentioned yesterday, here in this text, when we read about this process of development of happiness, we are not talking about pleasure, we are talking about happiness, mental happiness is satisfaction, mental satisfaction. Right from Aristotle to many thinkers, including the Buddhist teaching, they are all saying happiness basically means genuine, deep mental satisfaction. For example, without any concern to get anything back, if you sincerely and honestly help somebody, you don't get anything back in terms of monetary, or financial, things. It's but human nature that you'll get deep satisfaction. Yes, I helped somebody, and that person left my office happy, and you're happy. That non-calculating, without expecting anything back, you do it. In the Buddhist teaching, it says just like the 4 elements: The earth has been supporting us for I don't know how many years. Never asked anything back. The air we are breathing has been helping us for so long. Never asked anything back. Similarly, the water, the heat, and so forth. So the Buddhists, the Bodhisattvas, they pray, may I be able to live like these four elements, that I continue to be the source of happiness, source of inspiration for everybody who is in need. Makes complete sense. Unbiased love, unbiased compassion, right? So therefore, although the commentary for this text is a little bit difficult to read, but I thought I will, we'll read this together. You can figure out the meaning later on. You can also use your own way of thinking and probably find the meaning. Now, so therefore we need to ask this question. We have already been talking about the need to have happiness, need to have peace, and so forth. So very often it is important that we ask the question, what do you want out of your life? What is the main thing that you want out of your life? Right? What is it that you want? Huh? What is your answer? Happiness?
Great purity of mind.
Yeah, you can say, I want a Mercedes car. I want a nice, house with nice bedroom, nice kitchen, nice shower room. You can answer this by saying that you want so many 100,000 things. But at the end of the day, if I keep on asking the question, why you want a big house, why you want this, that, and then at the end of the day, you will say, I think I'll be happier. Right? But the truth is, it almost hardly happens just by getting those external material facilities, you will be happier. Now scientifically, and even otherwise, people have, like for example, the big lottery winners. I'm talking about somebody winning millions of euros or dollars. For me, like unthinkable, wow, what. But then they tested this for the first few days after hearing the news, their happiness goes up. And very soon it comes down to the same level. Clearly showing and indicating that the long-lasting happiness and peace will not be possible from external material accumulations. You can see in every country, especially in more developed countries, in order to get that so-called happiness, you keep on changing your material facilities. You keep on changing your house, you keep on changing your cars, you keep on changing your furniture, so much so that you even keep on changing your husband, changing your wife. Don't laugh, I'm telling you the truth. Am I wrong? Something like that. Maybe a little bit exaggeration, but more or less something like that. Because people think, okay, this husband didn't work, the next one will work, definitely. This wife didn't work, next one I'll have happiness. Next wife also same, next husband also same, the third wife, fourth wife. You keep on changing. This is just an example. Hoping and thinking that by changing the external situation you will be happy. I'm not saying you don't get any benefit. There may be some temporary, just like the lottery winners, you might get some temporary happiness and peace, but that doesn't last long, so long as your attitude remains unchanged. That's what I'm driving at. Once you change your mental attitude, meaning not necessarily in a religious way, changing attitude means you develop a way of thinking which is realistic, which is true to the law of nature. Like law of nature, as I said, anything that is conditioned, as is taught in Buddhism, anything that is conditioned is impermanent. That's not made by Buddha. It's the way things are. You need to accept that. Impermanent, transient nature. Now, especially in terms of your spiritual practice, it is not really enough to be able to see external things as impermanent. But what is even more important, you need to see yourself as impermanent and transient. Not just seeing the table impermanent, house impermanent. That's okay, that's also good. But most important thing is you need to see yourself as transient, impermanent. Anything can happen anytime, including death. Now that is not to unnecessarily scare you. And that is why the first teaching that the Buddha gave us on the truth of the suffering. And while explaining the meaning of the truth suffering, the first thing that he taught was impermanence. The very first teaching that the Buddha gave us on impermanence. And one of the very last teaching that he gave was again on impermanence. Because if you really think, it's not, as I said, it's not to unnecessarily scare you, but it is to really understand your fragile nature, impermanent nature. Once you see that, if you really, very precisely see that truth, see that reality, and especially through repeated meditation and reflection, if you are able to develop a conviction, you will be totally a different person. Believe me. You will be totally different person. How? One, if you are able to see this fragility, see this transient, impermanent nature, your craving and grasping will be reduced. Your craving and grasping will be reduced. Because all this greed, craving, grasping, attachment, desire, all this comes because you plan to live long, permanently. Right? Right? Number one. Number two, that understanding, realization of impermanence will tell you the truth that you may not necessarily have a long time to stay. So you better use the time right now. This is the golden opportunity. Use the time, don't postpone. Postponement is, in Buddhism, a kind of laziness. In Buddhism, laziness is not just sitting there not doing anything, but laziness also means procrastination. It also means postponement. It also means, doing inferior activities and sacrificing the more important, useful activities. That is also laziness. And we all know how much of this kind of laziness is that we practice. We continue to practice this laziness because we are unable to appreciate the preciousness of human life. We are unable to see the short time that we have. Take the example of somebody who's for a long time looking for a job and now penniless and not getting a proper job. For such a person, as and when he see a job announcement, and especially if there's a likelihood that he will get that job, without a second thought, he will apply for that job. And he will make sure that she does not miss that opportunity. Because it's a very rare opportunity. So similarly, if you are able to see this impermanent, transient nature, your life will be completely transformed. And some thinkers, they say there will be quantum leap. Quantum leap. Right? We can talk about higher things, nirvana, enlightenment, so many great things also. But that will not change you much. That will not make you move. If you think about this, fragility, impermanent, transient nature, completely change your life. And your attitude towards others. How? Because if you see other people also, other sentient beings also, exactly like you, fragile, transient, you see, vulnerable, how can you mistreat them? You will be very careful. I had given you the example of, yesterday, give you the example of 95-year-old man, not only in terms of age, old, but also in terms of physical fragility. Let us say he's very sick and wounds all over the body, pus oozing out. You see, when we are able to see such, difficult situation, then when we see such a person, attachment will not be there. Nobody will say, I will marry this old man. Right? So negative emotions, hatred will not be there. Anger will not be there. Right? Positive emotions will come. This is a very interesting point that you should make note of. When you really see the truth, the reality of fragility, impermanence, death and so forth, love will come, compassion will come, patience will come, negative emotions will not come. This is law of nature. This is law of nature. Positive emotions come when you are able to develop that holistic viewpoint, holistic attitude. Negative emotions cannot come when there is holistic attitude. Negative emotions are, as I said, narrow-minded. They just want one target to shoot at. You get angry, she is responsible. Fire her, eliminate her. When you have attachment, this is the only person I like. Are you with me? This is what we say. So this all clearly shows that negative emotions are very, very narrow-minded. And these narrow-minded negative emotions will suffocate you. Suffocate you, I'm telling you, suffocate you, strangle you. For example, take the example of anger. When you get anger, when you get angry, when you get anger, do you enjoy? It will start strangling you. It will start suffocating you. That's why when you are angry, you are unable to breathe properly. Have you noticed? Any experienced people? You see? And that's why in one of the accounts in the Buddha's life, it is said that the question was raised, why when two people are fighting, even though, let us say we are fighting, if you come a little bit closer, let us say we are fighting, then we are so close, almost touching each other. But when we are fighting, we are so close, but still both of us need to shout at the top of our voice. Why? Why? Because anger, hatred creates that distance. The real, not the physical distance, but the real distance of the mind. Therefore, you don't hear. Contrarily, if you have love and compassion, even without talking, that person is sitting somewhere there in the corner, you just look, and that person understands what you are saying, what you are thinking. You see? So that is the difference. So these negative emotions, they divide us. They create boundaries, borders. I mean, look at the borders that we are creating today in different parts of the world. These are all human creations, and how much suffering is created. But when the Apollo people, when they go high up in the, space and look down, they don't see any border. Humanity is one, earth is one. The boundaries created by us. So it is in our mind. So therefore it is not only important to say what do you want out of life, but you need to ask what pain do you want in your life. Meaning that if you want to be happy, if you want to achieve something, what kind of struggle are you prepared to undergo? No pain, no gain. We only talk about happy life, good life. Because happiness requires struggle. The positive is the side effect of handling the negative. Okay? For example, let us take the example of people who want an amazing physique. But you don't end up with one amazing physique unless you legitimately appreciate the pain and the physical stress that comes with living inside a gym for hour upon hour. Unless you love calculating and calibrating the food you eat, planning your life out in tiny plate-sized portions. You see, you need to undertake those struggles. You won't get everything without doing anything, you see. So it is wrong to want the reward and not the struggle. Okay? And to want the result and not the process. And not wanting to fight, but wanting to victory. Life doesn't work that way. So who you are is defined by the values you are willing to struggle for. Not just by wanting something. There are many people who want so many things. Year after year, they want the same thing, but they never get it because they never struggle, they never work for it. So therefore it is important. And therefore in Buddhism it is said suffering is introduction to happiness. Well, look at this. Suffering is introduction to happiness. And if you develop a process of thinking where whenever you encounter ups and downs in life, whenever you encounter hardship, struggle, pain and so forth, if you are able to see this another facet of life, you will be able to achieve success in whatever you are doing. For example, look at the nature's way of day and night. Normally we prepare day, right? Because there's light, you can see everything. So people may not like night. But imagine if there's only day and no night. We'll all get crazy. So that's why people in some other places where they have, many months darkness and no light, I heard that there you'll find more depression. Now today, because of science and technology, we do have very good light, but still many people get depression. So because there is night, all the troubles that you experience in the day disappear with a peaceful sleep. Next morning you wake up as a new person, you see. So suffering is introduction to happiness. If you don't like to use the word suffering, use the word challenge. If you don't face challenge, you will never grow. Like, take the example of two wrestlers. When they wrestle at each other, the other person is really your opponent, right? So you will see that person as somebody who will try to win over you or throw you down. But the truth is, it's only because of your getting this opportunity to wrestle with that person, your muscles grow. Right? Therefore, in some of the Buddhist teachings, there are teachers who say, when they hear the word suffering, they laugh at it, say, what? Suffering, what is it? As if they have no idea about suffering. And the message that they are saying is, the so-called suffering that you are talking about is a perception. It's how you see things. So for those people, anything that comes becomes a process of transforming your mind. Right? I mean, if I make a joke, for example, if they say in summer in India it's very hot, okay? So how should we react? One way is, oh damn, this summer is so hot, so terrible. Another way of thinking is, I'm getting a free sauna. When you go to a sauna, how much money you pay? The whole country is like a free sauna. Something like this is a joke, but something like that, you see. Really, when it rains, it has its own benefit. So take the best out of it, rather than cursing or complaining. So therefore, what I'm trying to say is, your happiness is very much dependent upon your mental perception. So let us read verse number 17. Those whose mind enjoys concentration, enjoys non-production, and the four mindfulness, the 7 branches of enlightenment, and verse 18 also, the 4 miraculous feet, and enjoys the Eightfold Path. They wear the monks' robes and eat their alms in happiness. So these 2 verses are basically talking about the 37 limbs to enlightenment. 37 limbs to enlightenment. Out of the 37 limbs to enlightenment, he has highlighted few of those branches. The one that he mentioned was uh, for mindfulness. Okay? So the verse is saying that those whose mind enjoys concentration, those whose minds enjoys concentration means he's talking about those great beings who delights in achieving one-pointed meditation. Right? In the initial stage, you may be reluctant to try to achieve that concentration. But as and when you go your mind inside and start this meditation, the peace that you will get cannot be explained. And that peace that you get, that happiness that you get is real happiness, real peace. Nobody will steal that away from you. Nobody will, rob that away from you. And you don't have to pay much money for that. And that will promote your physical health, of course mental health. You try. Morning if you spend at least 10 minutes. This is important, especially in today's world. We are living in a world today where we neither know how to live alone nor know how to live with others. Right? So in order to live with others, you should also know how to live by yourself with these inner qualities. Right? So therefore, those whose mind enjoys concentration. Now concentration means paying attention to one object. Right? Have you tried that? The interesting thing is, this reminds me one meeting with one Western nun who asked me, before Geshe, before I meditated, I was a nice person. After I meditated, I become a bad person. Which is not true. But she made this comment because before you meditate, you have no clue who is coming, who is going in your mind. 100,000 things are coming in your mind. And you are just saying, welcome, welcome, my buddy. You have always been coming. Come, go, as and you wish. Doors are open, windows are open. You have no idea. The thieves are coming, taking things away. The robbers are coming and taking things away. You have no idea. What are they taking away? Your virtuous qualities. They are disturbing, taking away all your positive qualities. But you have no idea. But as and when you concentrate, try to concentrate on one object, immediately you will see how many other things are coming. You are able to notice that. That is beginning. That's a good start. Actually, it's not bad. It's a good start. So as and when you notice this uncalled for, minds coming, you need to say, my dear, no, I'm not asking for you. At least for the time being. I'm concentrating on the image of Buddha or whatever. Not you. Especially with the negative emotions when they are coming, you need to say boldly and firmly, gone are the days when you cheated me. Gone are the days when you disturbed me. Gone are the days when you created disunity. Gone are the days because in those days I had no knowledge, no enlightenment, no teaching. So you cheated me, you fooled me. Now I know who you are. Get lost. Personify this negative emotion. Say, get lost. You destroyed my health. You destroyed my peace. You destroyed my family. I'm true. These negative emotions, their job is to create disunity, to destroy. Gone are the days. Say goodbye to negative emotions. And instead, with love, with compassion, with patience, you should say, humbly, respectfully, you should say, I am so sorry, you are such a precious thing. I did not recognize your importance before. Now I got some sense. Please come. Please come in the headquarters of our mind. Please come, have a nice cup of tea. Invite them. Make friendship with them. And if possible, make them stay forever in your mind. That is what we call as the Buddhist practice of transforming the mind. Right? So therefore he is saying those people who delight in concentration. enjoys non-production means, of course, there is production. Farmers are producing things, mothers and fathers are producing children, there is production in the conventional level. But here when he talks about non-concentration, he is talking about the wisdom that sees things as having no independent existence. Therefore, there is no production in terms of having independent existence. So here he is talking about two things, shamat and vipassana. Shamat is one-pointed meditation. Vipassana is special insight, where you analytically see the reality of the phenomena, judge the nature of the phenomena, right? So, enjoys non-production and the four mindfulness, and especially the four mindfulness. Four mindfulness means mindfulness of your body, mindfulness of your speech, mindfulness of your mind, mindfulness of the rest of the phenomena, especially the positive emotions and negative emotions. Okay? So when you meditate on your body, you need to see right from the top of your head to the sole of your feet. And through this kind of reflection, you will be able to see how fragile, how impermanent, how suffering nature, the body itself. And that will help you not to develop craving, attachment. That is not saying you don't take care of your body. Instead, it is saying take more care. See, this is the beauty of the teaching. This is the beauty of the teaching. Normally when we see my body is clean, my body is wonderful, my body is nice, what you end up developing is attachment, craving. But contrarily, if you say this is ugly, this is suffering, this is unclean, things like that, you're not discouraging yourself. You are accepting the reality. I mean, you can see right from the head of your top of your head to the sole of your feet. Then almost like skinning alive. See what is there under the skins. The 7 layers of skin, and then the flesh, and then the blood, and then the bones, and then the marrows, and so forth. There is really not much essence in terms of the body itself. I'm not saying it is bad, but I'm saying this is the reality. So when you see this very, very fragile nature of your body, it will actually encourage you to take more care because it is so fragile. I mean, especially look at what is there inside your body, inside your stomach. The internal organs, the lungs, the livers, the intestines, how fragile they are. And those of us who don't have this understanding based on Buddhist teaching or scientific instructions, when we don't have this understanding, we think that you can throw anything in your mouth. Spicy, sour, bitter, everything. You end up just pleasing the tongue and throw everything in your body, and then you get sick, suffer from diabetes, blood pressure, whatever. It's a common thing that we all see because you have not understood the fragility of your body. So therefore, understand the nature of the body as it is. That is basically the suffering nature of the body. Then similarly, when you do this, I'm just briefly explaining because we don't have time. When you do this meditation of mindfulness on your feelings, now when you get a positive feeling, you develop obsession, attachment. When you develop a feeling of suffering, you develop hatred, disliking, right? So it is because of this feeling that all the, grasping, the contamination that we see in the world is cultivated based on this feeling. So therefore it is important to understand that nature of feeling. And then similarly, when you do this mindfulness meditation on your mind, it is important because normally when you talk about yourself, you primarily end up thinking about your mind. I basically means, if you philosophically try to investigate, you will come to the conclusion it is basically my mind. So at the end of the day, you think your mind is yourself. But again, which is not true. Because we say, my mind is unhappy, my body is suffering, which means there is a possessor of that body, possessor of that mind. Okay, so that will help you remove that grasping towards the self. Then by meditation on the phenomena, the fourth level, which basically can be all phenomena in general, and that way you can think about emptiness of all phenomena. But here primarily thinking about two kinds of phenomena: the phenomena that must be adopted, cultivated, the positive qualities, and the phenomena that must be removed, the negative emotions. Okay, so that's a little bit about the four mindfulness practices and the 7 branches of enlightenment. 7 branches of enlightenment, because these 7 branches of enlightenment So the 7 branches to enlightenment are mindfulness and wisdom, effort, joy, pliancy, one-pointed meditation, equanimity. Okay, but I don't think there's a need to try to explain all of this. We have no time. Okay, and then similarly, the 4 miraculous feet. 4 miraculous feet. So just like your feet will help you, go to reach different places, so these 4 practices will help you reach enlightenment, which are aspiration. So this 4 miraculous feet primarily revolves around one-pointed meditation, and to do that you need to have aspiration. Then second, effort. Third, mental engagement, and fourth, analysis, things like that. And then Eighth Noble Path, I'm sure you know that. The right view, right conception, right speech, right action, right effort, right mindfulness, right meditation, things like that. Okay? So those people who undertake these practices of the branches leading to enlightenment, so in the case of the monk, they say they wear the monk's robes and eat their alms in happiness. That means if you are somebody who really sincerely undertakes these practices, then you are a good monk. Then even if you use those offerings by other people, it's okay, you can use it. You are practicing. They wear in monk's robes, it's fine. They eat their alms in happiness. But if you take alms, offerings from other people without practicing these things, you are not entitled. You will have to experience negative consequences. Okay. And similarly, verse number 19, they stroll in happiness in the mountain and in forest. Look at that. In the mountain, in the forest. They get happiness and peace. They transcend in this life. They transcend all vindictiveness and fears and go beyond the craving of this world. They stroll in happiness, you see. So it's basically saying that when you have these internal qualities, wherever you go, you are happy. In the mountain, you are happy. If you're alone, you are happy. If you're with many people, you are happy. In this life, you are happy. In the future lives, you are happy. Everywhere, you are happy. But so long as you have these negative emotions within yourself, as I said, you are not able to live alone and also don't know how to live with others. If you are in India, then it's better I move to America. When you move to America, then it was better when I met several people, Tibetans, Indians, who moved to America and then later saying, interestingly, I met one Indian when I was coming back from America some years back. So at the airport, we started talking because I speak Hindi, so we started speaking. He was very happy. Then he said, he mentioned to me a date of a particular year and month. He said, Guruji, on that particular day and month, I made the gravest mistake in my life. I said, what mistake did you commit? He said, I moved to America. You see? So in the beginning, the grass is greener on the other side. You move there. I'm not trying to be cynical, but what I'm saying is, I'm not saying don't move or anything like that, but what I'm saying is, you move, you do whatever you like, okay. It is possible that you get a better job or whatever, that's possible. I'm not trying to be cynical, but what I'm saying is, wherever you go, with whomever you associate, so long as your mind is not true to the reality, so long as there is no calmness and peace in your mind, so long as you don't have the right perspective, you will never be happy. Guaranteed. I can seal and give my signature and give it to you. Really, it's very clear. Okay? Verse number 20. Happiness is to hear and see the Dharma and enjoy solitude. Happiness is pure vows and not hurting worldly creature beings. I mean, it's very easy. It's quite easy here. The source of happiness is to hear and see the Dharma. And it said that the sweetest thing, the most pleasant thing that you can hear is the teaching of the Dharma. Because it heals your inner wounds. It gives you the right perspective. It tells you the reality. So from there you get that happiness. And then if you are able to remain in solitude and spend the time to reflect about this truth, about these realities, and go more deeper, you will see the magic, you will see the mystery, you will see the real resource, and you will be happy, you see. Number of people have asked me, Geshe, do you live alone? I said, I live alone. And then they asked me, don't you feel lonely? Don't you feel lonely? This is the general perception today. Not being able to live alone. And I responded by saying, most of the time I am alone, but sometimes my cousins and nephews and nieces, come to see me. Right now, 2 of my cousins are staying with me, but otherwise I'm alone. But I never felt loneliness. I had no time for loneliness. And in fact, the amount of joy and happiness that you get by going within yourself, spending more quality time, is really, really good. And that way you recharge yourself, energize yourself, so that you can also get the capacity to help others. How can you try to mature the mind of other people when your own mind is not matured? Right? So it is really, really important to go within and equip yourself with those positive qualities. And also, especially when in solitude, you live in company with the birds singing beautiful songs, the wild animals moving freely around. They will not say a single bad word about you. And you breathe the pure air. But when you live with other people, unless you are patient and mentally prepared, people always keep on saying something about you. Recently I give few talks, and everybody was saying many things, pros and cons. Even though you don't have any motivation to do anything bad to anybody, but there are people, who will twist it and tailor it to suit their purposes, Right? So therefore solitude. Now you can see solitude. People who intentionally go and live in solitude, they never suffer from loneliness. People who are suffering loneliness are those people who live in a big population of 20 million people. Imagine Usually amidst population of 10, 20 million, and there is a guy suffering from loneliness. So that has nothing to do with physical isolation, it's your mind. When your mind is compassionate, open, loving, wherever you go, you immediately get friends. Wherever you go, immediately get friends. Right? So, and enjoy solitude. Happiness is pure vows. Now, happiness is pure vows. I need to really rework on this translation. And if there's anybody who's really good in English and wants to help me, not tomorrow, but later on, I'm planning to rework on the translation of all those 30-something chapters from this Tibetan version of Dharmapada. Because we published this is what we publish, 10 books with the root text and the commentary. But that, if I translate the commentary, it will take a long time. But at least first the root text in a proper readable English. So this is, I used one translation which is already there and made some changes, but I'm not so happy right now. Happiness is pure vows and not hurting worldly creature being. That means pure vows or pure restraint. That means restraining yourself and not hurting other worldly creatures. That is the source of happiness. And look at this. When you have hurt nobody, when you have killed nobody, there is no reason that you feel upset. You are happy. And especially if you had prolonged the life of somebody, saved the life of somebody. And in Buddhism it is said, not only you will feel happy, but your life will be prolonged. You see? So one can prolong one's life not just by taking medicines, smart pills, but one can really prolong one's life in this life and future lives by saving the life of other people, by helping sick people. You see? There's a natural law, you see. If you kill others, your life will be shortened. Right? Verse 21, happiness is thoroughly transcending all desires and freedom from attachment to the world, and supreme is the happiness of those who had tamed the conception of pride in the self. Okay. This is also pretty clear. Happiness is thoroughly transcending all desires. Now here he is talking about transcending all desires of the form realm, desire realm and formless realm. Okay? And freedom from attachment to the world. The first, happiness is thoroughly transcending all desires, refers to removing attachment towards afflictive emotions of the desire realm. And then this line, happiness is of those who had tamed the conception of pride in the self. This is really talking about completely transforming and taming yourself, which is really talking about removing attachment to the first, to two higher realms, that is form realm and formless realm. Okay? Because in those realms there is a lot of conception of the self, a lot of kind of arrogance is there. And if in this way, if you have removed those desires or attachments to the three realms, then there will be supreme happiness.
How is it possible to take pride in the self if the self is not formed?
No, there is self. You need to make a distinction. There is a self. There is a conventionally existent self with regard to that. Exactly. There is no independently existent self, but there is a conventional self. And that's why you came to the teaching. Right? Yeah. Happiness is possessing, verse number 22, happiness is possessing ethics until old age. Happiness is totally abiding in faith. Happiness is delighting in meaningful words. Happiness is for those not doing evil deeds. Now, happiness is possessing ethics until old age Means, right from young age until you become old, if you had practiced morality, a proper ethical way of life, then there will be happiness. Okay? And then similarly, now when it says right from childhood until you become old, if you practice ethics or morality, there will be happiness because there will be satisfaction. If you observe morality from the Buddhist perspective, observing morality means number one, refraining from doing negative things. That's morality, number one. Number two, accumulating positive qualities. Third, benefiting sentient beings. If you undertake these three types of morality, there will be genuine satisfaction with your mind. So there's the meaning. Happiness is possessing ethics until old age. Happiness is totally abiding in faith. Faith here means stability. Okay? Stability. If you develop this pure faith based on reason, then you will be able to develop that stability towards Dharma practice. Your practice will not keep on changing from one day to another. If you don't have that proper understanding, today you might follow something, tomorrow you might follow something. There is no stability. Okay? So faith is of two types. One, faith of people who are not so sharp. People whose mind is not very sharp, they just follow some other people's teaching and then they start believing in it, which can be useful, but which can also be something like blind faith, which can also be very destructive. Many of the division, killing happens because of blind faith. So what is primarily encouraged in the Mahayana Buddhism, and especially Mahayana Buddhism, is faith rooted in knowledge. Faith based on personal analysis and observation. So if you are able to develop such a faith, then you will be able to continuously remain stable in your Dharma practice and achieve success. And happiness is delighting in meaningful words, because that's why we like teaching. The teachings, they have meaningful words. Meaningful words means the words that is good in the beginning, good in the middle, good in the end, good in this life, good for many lives to come, good for yourself, good for others. It's talking about harmony, it's talking about love, it's talking about friendship, you see. So these are meaningful words. It's talking about protecting life. It is talking about prolonging life, right? So therefore these are meaningful words. These are not like gossiping. So therefore you must respect those words, because by using such words, you will be able to remain happy and also develop delight, mental delight in the minds of other people. Therefore in Buddhism say, even when you exchange words with others, it should be, if possible, like a nectar. Okay? If not, at least the words that you exchange should be like a flower. But it should not be like a filth. The rest, and when you say something, it creates division, it creates suspicion, it creates unhappiness in the mind of other people, you see. There's a Tibetan saying which says that the words that you use may not be sharp like a blade, but if you use a harsh speech, it can chop other people's heart into pieces. There's equally an English saying which says, a tongue which is 6 inches long can fell a person 6 feet tall if you use harsh speech, right? So therefore use meaningful words. Happiness is for those not doing evil deeds, right? So this we have already explained, more or less. So let us read, where are we now? Happiness is regarding the father in this world, likewise regarding the mother. Happiness in this world is regarding the trainers in virtue, and likewise happiness is regarding the Brahmins. So it's basically saying from the worldly parlance, If you listen to your parents, father and mother, and respect them, there will be happiness. Because the worldly people will say, what a good child. What a wonderful child. You see, everybody will praise you. And so you will be happy. Happiness is regarding the father in this world, regarding or respecting the father in this world. Likewise, respecting the mother. So that is in terms of kindness that has been shown to you by your parents. If you repay their kindness, there will be happiness. Okay? Right from the time when you were like a helpless child until you get married or whatever, the parents look after you. Irrespective of whether they are rich or not, illiterate or educated, the parents, how much time they spend for their children, you see. So as a kind of repaying their kindness, you respect them, listen to their words. Even if it is something that you can't listen, but refuse it politely, And then happiness in this world is regarding the trainers in virtue. There are people who undertake good practices, develop love, develop compassion, develop bodhicitta. These are the trainers, So these, and then likewise, happiness is regarding the Brahmins who lead a pure conduct. So these last two lines talks about people, that you should also respect those who have a lot of qualities. Qualities not in terms of, schooling or, ordinary academic education, but qualities in terms of inner qualities, which is important, beneficial for others. So therefore respect them. Happiness is the coming of the Buddha, likewise giving Dharma teachings. Happiness is harmony of those spiritually inclined, and happiness is the austerity of those in harmony. And of course, if the Buddha had not come, such wonderful teachings have not been given. So therefore, we get this happiness of coming of the Buddha. And His Holiness the Dalai Lama, when he goes to different places, everybody becomes very happy. Not that he is going around and distributing dollars, but by being loving and being kind, everybody gets happiness. You see, there's a very infectious influence. Likewise, giving Dharma teaching. Dharma, as I mentioned yesterday, Dharma, in one sense, Dharma is a law of nature. So it is important to understand the law of nature. Dharma, in one sense, is those virtuous practices in whose practice it will not let you fall down. For example, if you don't kill, you will not get imprisoned. If you kill somebody, you will be revenged, you will be killed, or you will be imprisoned by the law, you see. So when you do the Dharma practice, it will uphold you from falling into negative state existence. So therefore, doing Dharma practice is happiness. Happiness is harmony of those spiritually inclined. That means there is especially very, strong happiness if those people who claim to do Dharma practice, if they live in harmony. Here in this case, we are talking about the Sangha, Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. Sangha, the word itself means community. Community. So those who are undertaking such a spiritual practice, they must live in harmony. Therefore, in Buddhism, it is said, if you try to divide the congregation, it's one of the greatest sin. Okay, so happiness is harmony of those spiritually inclined, and especially happiness is the austerity of those in harmony. So the sanghas, it's not enough that they live in harmony and not doing any spiritual practice. The real happiness will be there if they undertake some austerity, some hardship to do their Dharma practice. Then this is excellent, right? Then they will be able to protect the Dharma, preserve the Dharma, disseminate the Dharma, and make countless sentient beings happy. Verse 25, happiness is seeing those with ethics, and happiness is seeing those having much hearing. Happiness is seeing the arhats who are totally liberated from truth. So these are also more or less saying the same thing. I have explained the meaning of the benefits of ethics, and if you really practice those wonderful good human qualities, you will be happy. And in Buddhism we say the celestial beings will protect you. Other peoples will be attracted towards you like a magnet. If you have this proper practice of ethics, without your threatening anybody, they will bow down to you, they will flock around you. If you don't have the ethics, you wield the weapons, all those things and try to control, they will somehow try to revenge or run away from you. They will not come to you, right? And one very good example is how you do it with the dogs or crows. If you with the sincere motivation, if you give a piece of food, they also come very close to you. But the moment you have some little bit manipulative motivation, even if they want to take their food, they'll take it in such a way that take and go away, run away. They sense that. They sense that a vibration is kind of emitted. Okay. Yeah. So happiness is seeing those with ethics. And happiness is seeing those having much hearing. That means what people who have really, really, lot of listening to the Dharma, they have the knowledge, right? So they can share. They can share, and they can make many people's life. They can benefit the life of many people. Like His Holiness Dalai Lama is always the best example. And he's very fond of giving teaching, not to advertise himself. But he is able to see many people are benefited. And even in my own case, I've seen many people. I am nobody, zero, almost like zero, nobody. But with this little understanding of Dharma and a little bit of sincere motivation, you can help people. I know some people who really had a suicidal tendency when I met them. Then giving through encouragement, showing the direction, they're still alive and quite happy. There's nothing magic, nothing mystery about it. And I'll tell you one more story. I have many stories. One story, one black woman with a little child. When I was working in His Holiness office, she came to see somebody in the private office. So normally they send me, because I was the only monk there, working in the office, who speaks English. I think so the secretaries will say, go down, Geshe Lhakdor. So I went there, and she told her story. I now don't even remember the story that she told me. So she kept on telling the story. Then after a while, when I started talking, she said, I don't want any word, anything from you. You are the first person who listened to me patiently. There's enough for me. I mean, look at this. It's amazing, the needs of different people, the situations of different people. For some people, even if you show this willingness to listen, to sit together and show a little bit of your feeling of solidarity, whatever, it helps people, you see. I have so many examples like that. Having worked with His Holiness's office for over 16 years, you get those kind of wonderful exposure. So that's what I'm saying. That's what he is saying here. And happiness is seeing those having much hearing. Happiness is seeing the Arahat. Of course, if you see the Arahat, that means one who has completely destroyed negative emotions. That's a total joy. Even among ordinary people, not just one of my classmates, a monk, we spent, I don't know, at least 10 years together. I've never seen him getting angry. Always smiling, so there are like amazing, fantastic people. And likewise, there are people like me who, they do the Geshe and do so many things, but still just like a stone remaining in water, still remaining dry, you see, that's possible. So what I'm saying is, because this subtle, differences in tendencies, dispositions, take note of that, and you can always help other people. Okay? Who are totally liberated from births. Okay? Happiness is with the river that is easy to access, and happiness is the person who is victorious by the Dharma. Happiness is the attainment of wisdom, and happiness is the cessation of conception of ego. So more or less we explained this earlier, but he gives an example here. But in the case of a river, if it is easy to access, then for washing your clothes, washing your body, whatever, if it is not like uneven, and not very deep, and also clean thing there's there, then you can enjoy the river. So similarly, happiness is the person who is victorious by the Dharma. Okay? Happiness is the attainment of wisdom, because much of the suffering, as I said earlier, is due to ignorance. And when you have the wisdom, you will know what to do in different situations. Okay? And happiness is the cessation of the conception of ego, which we already spoke. The root cause of suffering is ignorance. Ignorance here means conception of ego. That means seeing oneself as having inherent independent existence. Okay? So once you are able to put an end to that conception of ignorance and ego, you will be happy. Okay? Happiness is seeing the Arya superior beings who has achieved the path of seeing, and happiness is associating with the sublime beings. And if infantile beings are not seen, there will be constant happiness. That means if you associate with really enlightened people, may it be the Aryas, may it be the other sublime beings, if you associate with compassionate people, loving people, kind people, there is happiness. Contrarily, if you associate with bad people who are like infantile, means who are uncivilized, not properly mentally trained, bad people, if you associate with them, so he says, and if infantile beings are not seen, it's better that we should not see them, because if you go with very hot-tempered people, you also get angry, you see. If you go with the people who have excessive attachment, you will also imbibe those qualities. So it's better that you are not with these infantile beings, because if you are not with them, instead if you are with these good people, there will be constant happiness. Okay? So we stop here. Thank you.